Chair, lights, new Ghouls, Guts, and Gore set. Turbo Kid is like every genre packed into one glorious, gory 80s movie. I felt like I should have been watching it on VHS in 1988. It's a sci-fi, horror, western, action, adventure, post-apocalyptic, romantic comedy, indie movie. It's a freaking blast of a movie to watch and brings back a ton of nostalgia for 1980s sci-fi and fantasy films. The best way that I can describe Turbo Kid is if you took Mad Max, Scott Pilgrim, and Tron, threw them in a blender, and outpoured Turbo Kid. The movie is a Canadian film and the feature-length debut for director Francois Simard, who blends all these genres together incredibly well. Monroe Chambers plays the lead, credited as the Kid, aka Turbo Kid, and the beautiful and adorable Lawrence LaBeouf plays his unlikely friend Apple. Now, the first half of Turbo Kid takes a little bit of time to pick up steam, establishing it as a near clone of the Mad Max universe. Although there's no cars or hot rods, there's only bicycles. Everybody gets around on bikes, and there's even a pretty comical chase scene on them. The first 30 minutes of this movie might seem like an indie teen romantic comedy, but we wouldn't be talking about a movie like that on a channel called Ghouls, Guts, and Gore if it didn't bring at least one of those, and I'm proud to say it brings all three. A corrupt and psychotic ruler named Zeus and his main henchman Skeletron are the ghouls of Turbo Kid, and they could fit in right next to the Ayatollah of rock and roller from the Mad Max universe. Skeletron in particular is a highlight and a personal favorite of mine. He's got this expressionless steel mask and a circle saw projectile launcher on his wrist. Really badass character. I loved every moment with Skeletron on screen because even though he has no lines and he's wearing this expressionless mask most of the movie, actor Edwin Wright plays the character up in a huge way because he's always spazzing out and just freaking out and overreacting to things. And the few glimpses you do get of his eyes through the mask, his eyes are wide and bulging and he just looks like he's cracked out on something. Zeus is played by busy actor Michael Ironside, and he kind of has this odd calm side but is a really ruthless leader. Doesn't get flustered except maybe in a few parts, and he has a pretty interesting backstory, but he brings the gore in the movie, particularly in this one interrogation scene where a man's guts are literally attached to a stationary exercise bike. And it's a really brutal scene that you just have to see. One of my favorites in the movie. Shows just how sadistic and insane Zeus really is. The entire cast of Turbo Kid is just full of larger-than-life characters. There's even a renegade cowboy-like character that kind of brings in the Western element. And everything from the costumes to the cheesy 80s artificial star filter that happens when Turbo Kid completes his suit is in this movie. It's just a callback to a time where movies weren't just all CG effects, and it's got that great nostalgic feel to it. So yeah, am I leaving anything out? The soundtrack. The soundtrack is a huge part of this movie. It's bound to be a vinyl record by either Waxwork Records or Mondo Records, and I will buy it. The score is by an artist called Lamatos, and it's just a massive part of what makes this movie so good. It's this John Carpenter-esque, synthesizer-heavy, process beats-heavy soundtrack it sounds like an 80s soundtrack. And that style has been used a lot in a lot of recent horror movies. Whether you're in the camp that thinks it's being overused now, people are just trying to capture that retro feel or play off the vibes that brings. That might be true, but it does pull up certain feelings and visuals and makes you think of other movies from that time period. And Turbo Kid is such a throwback and a callback to the 80s, maybe early 90s sci-fi fantasy films that I can't imagine it without the soundtrack. There's a ton of specific moments from Turbo Kid that I could go into that I loved. I could gush about it, but I don't want to spoil it for you. You have to see this movie and just enjoy it. It's pure entertainment. And as it builds to the final act, it's able to accomplish something that not a lot of movies can say they've done, because you have this really sweet romantic relationship that builds between Turbo Kid and Apple, and then the final act just culminates in this massive post-apocalyptic bloodbath showdown, and it's really intense and gory and action-packed. And in that final scene, without giving too much away, body parts are severed, separated from their top half to their bottom half, and blood literally rains down from the sky in one of the most gratifying on-screen kisses you'll see in a movie. Turbo Kid will leave you with a smile on your face. It's got a ton of style and appreciation for its predecessors. It takes a ton of different movies, it's clearly inspired by them, blends a lot of different genres into something that still feels current and relevant. And even the movies that it does pull different ties from, it takes the best elements of those movies. Like the Mad Max movies, I love those movies. They're a ton of fun. Watched them for a long time, but the dialogue and the pacing of at least the first Mad Max can be really slow and can be a movie where you just want to get to the action scenes. Turbo Kid's not like that. It's actually a well-written gem and is something that's sure to grow in popularity and become a cult classic as time goes on. Turbo Kid is actually available now on demand, so you can watch it whenever you're ready. Thanks for watching this Ghouls, Guts, and Gore Saw It movie review. If you like this, we have tons of other videos up, not just movie reviews, but original content, conventions, and different types of shorts and videos. So click subscribe, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and keep an eye out for 2 other Saw It movie reviews we're going to be doing soon for other Epic Pictures produced movies, Jerusalem and Tales of Halloween.